Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor Cardhoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Aaron Campbell.
Do you normally say another edition?
Yeah.
That stuck out. I thought it was another episode. Okay.
Oh, I've written here another edition.
I don't know.
Ruben Bressler?
It seems sus. I'm going to vote Evan, I think.
All right. It's fine. I was in the vents. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to admit to it, then...
I mean, that's what the people... I don't know. I haven't played Among Us.
I saw the best meme the other day that said, I couldn't be the imposter because I'm so dummy thick that you'd hear my cheeks in the vents or something.
Yep. That's a good one.
And I was like, that is me. That is me clapping my cheeks.
So dummy thick. Well... We kick it off dummy thick like with the first pick and the giveaway. A $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com is up for grabs. ! Raffle in the chat for your chance to win. Subscribe first to get 2 chances to win. So, and those will be chosen. The 45 minutes is when that cuts off. And if you're listening to the podcast, thanks. And we don't bother you with the giveaway. All right. So, the first pick, Lordy, somehow, Wizards bans a card in Standard, and it's not the first thing we're talking about.
No. Barely a blip on the radar.
Barely a blip.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why, because it's not the first pick, I guess we won't talk about it first. Let's get to the thing we're going to talk about, and then we'll talk about why Uro doesn't matter. Yeah,
we'll get there. So, Wizards of the Coast had previously discussed essentially said in some ways that, hey, there's going to be a Walking Dead secret lair thing. And they showed like a walker token that was a zombie token. And we're like, okay, whatever. They kind of came and went. No one really paid attention to it. And alongside the announcement of Uro being banned, they also said, hey, we're going to make this secret lair, but these are going to be mechanically unique black bordered cards. And then everyone lost their mind.
It's been at the top of the news cycle for like 3 days now.
And that's a lot for Magic. For Magic to have more than one day. And this to me is not given the credence I feel from some people that it needs to. The importance of this moment, I cannot underestimate. The idea that you're taking something that is seen as a purely promotional product but not treating it like the way you did other promotional products, this being Godzilla and Silver Border stuff. The idea that you're making tournament legal, commander legal stuff that you can only buy in certain regions for 1 week, which is also very problematic. And then the whole there's a whole narrative around this of, where does it stop? Do we have the Big Bang Theory? Is your Sheldon going to block my pickle, Rick, before it's over? Right? Or do you just say, look, this is an opportunity that they had because Hasbro has ownership in Entertainment One, who distributes and helps produce The Walking Dead. So they got together and, hey, do you have to yuck everybody's yum? Why you got to be so negative? Come on, Emma, can't you just rah-rah and love joy and people enjoy things? I love people enjoying things. I want people to enjoy things. But I also want to note that there is a certain kind of, sacrosanct maybe. There's a certain kind of what exists in Magic lore. What exists is a black bordered card in our Magic, in the Dominaria. You can skip to a plane and then you oops, do you run into LeBron James? I don't think so. But also, oops, don't think you run into Negan. So you have these characters of just maybe, why don't we do them silver bordered? And then many people say, well, silver bordered provides 2 problems. One, it makes it seem like, they're less Magic cards. They're not real Magic cards, which I think is BS when you have a $200 Transformer over here and you have all the ponies are like $25 a piece. No one had problems with those. And they wouldn't with this case. And then the other half is this idea of the shaming, the great shame of you were to walk up to a table and be like, I have a silver bordered, sir. And then you go, get out of here, because we will never play with you and your silver bordered cards, because somehow you don't already have a conversation about how powerful your deck may or may not be. Are you using a precon? Are you at power level 5? Are you CEDH? You already have those conversations, yet somehow that feel bad as a giant boogeyman. So there's a whole realm, and the idea that Wizards, as far as I can understand or get, is that they don't necessarily realize that this is just like the first little crack. It's not a giant deal to put these characters in the game. But where does it stop? And when do you stop? And when do you say, look, Wizards could make millions of dollars if we put Mickey Mouse on a Magic card? Why don't we just do that? What's the problem with that? Like, this is where that conversation begins and why people are so crazy freaking out about it. That's what I got.
Aaron?
Okay. Tell me how I'm totally wrong. I'm the worst person ever. And I'm talking about.
God, I do not want to talk about this.
We must talk.
You go first.
I go first?
Oh, Rubes.
All right.
Do tell.
So here's the thing. This is not the end of Magic the Gathering.
It's not the end of the world.
This will not kill Magic.
Yes.
It is, however, beyond the pale. This is the furthest from home we've ever been. And it is a dangerous precedent to set. Because once you do this, once you make cards that are tournament legal outside of the realm of Magic packs and the typical avenues of people getting them, then you set the precedent for the possibility in the future of entire things going awry. For example, if any of these cards or any of the cards following in these cards' footsteps become tournament good, then there becomes a demand, and the supply is so low that all of those cards immediately jump over, at least $100 at least.
Sure.
I think that the other precedent that's odd that this sets is a lore-based one, which is, the world of The Walking Dead has not been explored in Magic the Gathering.
Right.
These cards are not part of a larger whole, which means that they were not play-tested. They were not particularly looked at for tournament playability, I wouldn't imagine.
Right.
And I would be a little surprised if this were WotC at all. I don't think WotC had almost any decision to make with this. This is a Hasbro decision, and I feel for those employees who have to hold their tongues and say, you know what, we have to pay the piper and just go along with at the beginning of our opponent's upkeep make 3 Walker tokens, I guess. Like, that's a thing that exists on a Magic card now. And so, there's a whole litany of things that are a problem here. And any one of them isn't going to ruin Magic. All of them together isn't going to ruin Magic. But the problem is that you have all of these issues combined together in a way that it looks like Hasbro is doing on purpose and not seeing what the problem is. I feel bad because I feel like we're going to get Magic the Gathering is going to get a lot of attention from the Walking Dead stuff. They're going to open one on the Talking Dead. There's a lot of publicity about it. I'm sure that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is going to sign 1 million Negans, and it's going to be great. But those people are going to come into Magic and like, oh, this is a cool card game. Let's take a look and see what they have to say. And the whole room's on fire, and everyone's going to be upset about it, and they click over to, hashtag WotC is trending worldwide.
Yeah,
and
literally.
So that's going to be a problem. So I think that it's a little bit of doomsaying. It's a little bit of saying this is a very bad red flag in indicating problems in the future.
Right.
And in particular for these 3 or 4 cards, these 3 or 4 cards may not ruin any formats. These 3 or 4 cards may not be playable in any formats. Playing them in your EDH deck without having to check if silver bordered cards are legal, sure, I guess that is a thing that kind of matters to some people. But the costs so outweigh the benefits here to me in terms of a wider scope of the game. If you're only looking at money, if you're only looking at the bottom line, which is all Hasbro's looking at, easy peasy, make this thing.
Like, Aaron, you ready for a Golden Girls Secret Lair?
Oh my God, Golden Girls!
I would buy that.
Secret Lair.
I'm swinging in with Dorothy, y'all. I'm just getting in. I'm just running.
I would block with Blanche, but I attacked with her last turn.
I want a picture it card, or I want like a legendary cheesecake that you can click,
Right.
I think that if we weren't going through what we are going through right now, what with a pandemic and things happening politically and socially and things like that, I don't think this thing would have been such a big deal. But I think emotions are really high right now. I think people are really frustrated. Emotions run particularly high when it comes to issues of inequality or inequity. The haves, have-nots, people feeling left out and things like that. I think it's even more precarious when the thing that people have been turning to for an escape from everything that's going on around us is also changing fundamentally. And so, I do think emotions are really high right now. I can't necessarily relate to a lot of the opinions I've heard over the last couple of days. I don't have a problem with this product. I might even buy this product. But just because I don't, share those opinions doesn't mean that those opinions aren't valid. I just don't feel that strongly about it. I do think some of the concerns I've heard, there are a couple of concerns I've heard that I can agree with. Like, there's been some talk about certain countries or certain regions that will never see this. And so that's a really big bummer. I think that, people around the world should be able to enjoy Magic. And, there are obviously distribution issues and shipping issues which still haven't been remedied. I think that's really unfortunate. I think people are they're a little bit overprotective when it comes to formats like Legacy and Vintage, which haven't really been supported by Wizards in a long time. And so I don't necessarily share that opinion that won't someone think of Legacy? Legacy's going to be fine. We survived True Name Nemesis. It's going to be okay. But, the majority of the community doesn't like this, and they're right to feel that way. I just don't share that opinion. So
sure.
We talk a lot about slippery slopes, and we talked a lot about precedents, and we talk a lot about what Wizards has done in the past and what they might do in the future, and also how a lot of times it feels like there's a disconnect between Wizards. Is like, this is, people like The Walking Dead. I like The Walking Dead. What's wrong with The Walking Dead? It's like, The Walking Dead's great, and for what it's worth, don't like the card designs themselves. I think Negan is like a super cool card. Yeah. I think that card.
I would put that in my Queen Marchesa deck, and I would pair it with a Conjurer's Closet and have a really good time.
Imagine if they had if they had done this like they did Godzilla. They were full frame. They had a name underneath them which was clearly Innistrad based.
Yeah.
So these are preprints from next fall's Innistrad set.
I would love that.
Like, wouldn't that be cool? You get the Negan version,
and
but you get
the
Innistrad version
early.
Right, so you get to play with them all you want, and you already have the fix. The fix is already there. They already have the solution, but why did they not use that solution? I don't know. So if they're not going to use that solution, I feel like you just mark them as promotional. Again, I'm happy swinging with Captain Crunch, but he better have a silver border on him.
I think arguments like that don't really help your cause. I mean, when you say things like it's never, I think you have enough of a leg to stand on without bringing up Tupac and Captain Crunch. It's never going to happen.
Captain America, right?
No,
like Captain America.
I don't think you need to go there to make your point, and I think it.
Well, I think it's legitimate. I think it's part of what we're talking about.
I mean, your slippery slope argument is sound, but I think you can make that argument without going fantastical, like.
Okay,
what about
fair
Fantastic
enough.
Four? Can we?
Right, I'm trying to give you the extreme in order to show you, like, this is where we could be one day.
You've done that, though. I'm saying is you can go there. I think you're losing me when you go too far. When you're like, oh, well, aren't you worried about like an All My Children set? That's never going to happen. Like, I think you can. I think you can ground it in a little bit more reality than you have.
Fair enough. What I would note is, there's a feeling of being, instead of Magic the Gathering, and someone said it in chat, of the gathering of brands, right? You're gathering these brands together to play as a thing. Like, do I want Star Wars Magic cards? Absolutely, 100%. I've made entire episodes of the Magic Show on how much I would love to see them really go in full bore, different card back, make Star Wars and Magic. Do that. I don't want them to make mechanically unique Luke Skywalker that you can only get for 1 week whenever. Like, that to me is a giant problem in terms of A, how they distribute their product, and B, it sort of puts even more focus on how they've taken so much away from stores. They don't give them from the vaults. They don't give them something like this. They gave them a Secret Lair fetch lands. Thank you. High five. You did a great job. But the 12 other Secret Lairs didn't go anywhere near them, and they're not getting any real sort of bonuses. Honestly, the best thing that they shipped out was that white bordered Tybalt. It turns out everyone loves the white bordered Tybalt. So stores got anywhere from 1 to 5, depending on whether sort of premium or non-premium, and that's great. That helps stores. They're certainly struggling right now. But, putting more and more emphasis on buy from Wizards directly. Right. Don't worry about them. Buy from Wizards directly. This is the most egregious.
The other thing that's confusing to me is that, so I think that this Secret Lair isn't for Magic players at all. I think that this is for Walking Dead fans as a collectible. which is a little confusing to me because it's being sold through the Hasbro shop and it was marketed to Magic players. Because Magic players, if this were marketed to Magic players, we would have done the Godzilla treatment, we would have begrudgingly accepted the silver border treatment, whatever. Or we could have done that great idea of pre-printing Innistrad Legends. I love that. Yeah. And that would have been fine. Would that have turned off the Walking Dead fans if it said Negan Cold-Blooded Killer, and then underneath it in tiny print it said some name Cold-Blooded Killer?
I don't think it would have turned them off, but I do think that this was, I think that there were, negotiations involved, and I think that, if, AMC or The Walking Dead or whoever was representing them really put their foot down, I think this is the final product. I think that, this is what they wanted in order to make this product happen, and Hasbro seems willing to do that, so.
See, the thing is that they just needed to get the Netflix series and the movies going so that they could print mechanically unique things from a popular Netflix series or movie that were already in the Magic the Gathering universe. And we could have had, Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jace on a Magic card or whatever it ends up being. And that would not have flustered so many feathers. But there are, as we've enumerated, dozens of problems with what is going on here. The biggest thing for me is stepping way back. Look at the whole picture. Very clearly, something happened 3 to 4 years ago where Hasbro, and maybe Wizards, but Hasbro specifically said, we can keep cranking this lever.
They're pulling the money lever, right? They pull the money lever, and they keep doing
this. And at some point, it's going to do something, some irrevocable damage. This is the furthest it's been, and the longest jump that it's been in any one product I can remember.
And it's weird that people kind of are mad at me for telling them to buy stuff. Like, A, only buy it if you can afford it, but B, this is a good thing to buy and stick in your closet. You can get mad at me if you want, but I said the same thing about the HasCon promos that are in my desk right now at work that I haven't seen in 6 months.
Right.
But it's also now worth $250 when I paid $40 for it. This thing you throw in a closet, it's going to be worth a ton of money because part of the argument is that they're making reserved list cards because it's going to be so damn hard to reprint these licensed things. Yeah. This happens the exact same way in the board game world. I'm going to tell you, Battlestar Galactica, the board game, is one of the best hidden trader games of all time. Like, you think Among Us is good, go play Battlestar Galactica. No, you can't, because it's $250+ because it's out of print and it's never going to come back in print. And there's just nothing you can do about that. So, you could make a reskinned version of it, and that's the ideal. But part of what made that board game cool was that it was Battlestar Galactica, right? And so, what part of what makes these cards cool is that they're part of that universe of The Walking Dead. Great. So were the My Little Pony people, and we didn't, we weren't sitting around, bashing on how dare they make My Little Pony cards. We didn't care. We wouldn't have cared here.
I also think it's weird that The Walking Dead is the one that is the thing. I would have thought this would have been Avengers or Harry Potter or Transformers.
Here was the key. The key was the Entertainment One thing. When someone mentioned they paid $4 billion for Entertainment One, and part of that was the Walking Dead stuff, they got to get their money out of that $4 billion.
I think it's that relationship, but it's also you have to be realistic about Magic's place in the culture. We're not Fortnite. We're not, I think Fortnite can get Travis Scott. I think Fortnite can get, a McDonald's partnership, whatever it might be. Magic is certainly a successful game, but I don't necessarily think that we have I don't think we can attract, A-list talent, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Not until we get A-list money.
The Netflix original series, then we can get A-list talent.
Well, I still think we might be kind of niche. I don't know. Yeah,
I'll tell you this. Major League Baseball All-Star Hunter Pence is streaming Magic the Gathering right now. So, I think that A-list is
Arena has done nothing but positive things for Magic, and that's wonderful. It's not so much to me. I'm just concerned that this is where they're going to hit that money handle, and I think it's going to work really well. And then Hasbro is going to say, "Why don't you want to pull that money lever again?" And they're like, "Well, the sanctimony, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Shut up! You got expectations now that are higher than your previous expectations. You better go pull that money handle." And what's it going to take? And like the professor, for example, had a video where he said, look, what's to stop them from saying, hey, Modern Horizons 2 is coming. Let's do a secret layer with modern, legal, mechanically unique cards that happen to be like maybe just a little bit above rate than what you're currently getting for whatever that effect is, because they need to sell more of these things. This is money that goes directly to Wizards of the Coast.
I mean, it really should just be a new color of border. Like, we've done silver, we've done white, we've done black, we've done gold. Like, this really should just be a different border.
Sure, I can see that too. Again, the idea that, like, silver cards are bad or lesser. Like, I've never seen people just crap on them that much per se. They're still sold every day at CoolStuffInc.com. Like, we buy and sell them all the time.
They put on their sleeves one leg at a time, just like everybody else.
Just saying, there's nothing wrong with
check with your
the idea.
Check with your local play group. I remember when Aaron was talking about you're gonna play a deck, and I was like, can you play like silver bordered stuff in it?
And that's a legitimate question.
I realized halfway through that sentence that I might be spoiling something, so I didn't want to go too deep.
Oh no!
Into
What
it.
I'm saying is, for me, the idea that you have that conversation about what's in your deck, that happens every time anyway.
Exactly.
That doesn't even make any sense.
I love playing silver bordered cards. I mean, I think that having them in your deck, if your play group allows for them, and they don't make the game too ridiculous, then that just makes for a better play experience. But that's also a tertiary part of this discussion.
Look, a lot of problems that Wizards seems to have over the years is that the left hand doesn't talk to the right hand. And how clear is it that when the left hand says no more mechanically unique promos for buy boxes because it pissed everybody off, and then the right hand goes, here's a mechanically unique box that you can only buy from certain areas during 1 week. How is that not that's bad communication. You're not talking to each other when you're doing the things that are the opposite of what the other's doing. It's tough. So yeah, I'm afraid ultimately that it's just going to happen. Whatever, and it's going to be very successful. High five again. Get your copy. Throw it in the closet. Let's talk in 10 years about how stupidly good an idea that was. And then they say, well, we're just going to keep doing this because the black border worked. Not everyone lost their mind. We were just angry. We're just blowing this out of proportion. Magic community likes to be negative. Like I understand the narratives. I get it, but I also understand that this just loosens that belt just a little bit where you go, well, they did The Walking Dead, right?
The other thing about throwing this one in your closet for 10 years is that if Magic the Gathering does die, this remains a Walking Dead collectible and will retain its value. Yeah,
there were some people who were just like, why would The Walking Dead people like this? Man, The Walking Dead buy action figures and don't open them either. Like, that's the thing that you do if you like a show or a thing. Like, it's not a big deal. All right, so that's that. Do what you will with that. I don't even know anymore. I've seen so many weird takes and perspectives.
Yeah, I'm over talking about it.
It just blows my mind. So, anyway, let's talk about how they banned a card in Standard. That seemed pretty good. On September 28th, the Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath was banned in Standard. I believe they said the word Omnath once in this, which was cool.
This weekend's events underscored that the 4-color Omnath decks are dominating early play, and that even the decks built to try to beat those decks utilize the powerful Titan. Oh no. Yep. However, we've certainly noticed this week's drawing results for the 4-color Omnath deck, and we'll continue to watch how that strategy. So they mentioned it twice, it looks like.
Yep.
Fair enough. I'll take it. Look, I understand they don't want to ban Omnath immediately. It's the new set. It's the hot thing. You don't want to take away all that excitement. I get that pressure. I understand that.
Yeah. Like, level 1 was the Omnath blue-green, red-white, and then level 2 was the Sultai Control, which was blue-green-black. The decks were all running Uro. The thing is that at this point, Uro is somewhat replaceable. People are going down to even 1 in the deck.
Well, they were.
Or they were previous to this. But because the front half was pretty replaceable with cards like Dryad of Elysian Grove or Beanstalk Giant or Azusa or things like that, like something to do on turn 3 that helps ramp your mana. And because games sometimes just ended when Omnath hit the board, the late game thing that happens with Uro, where you have inevitability unless you can deal with their graveyard, didn't matter. And so the games were ending super quickly. They were super coin flippy and super like a tidal wave, where whoever gets to do the thing first gets to do the thing, and then there's no catching up from that point. I would have liked to have seen Escape from the Wilds also get banned, because I think that is enough of a kneecap to the adventure version and to the straight up value versions of those decks. That would have been all right. And Escape from the Wilds has been around long enough for us to see that it is a very powerful, very unique card that can also end games on its own. So I would have been happy with both of those going the way of the dodo. But, for me, it's too late. Like, Uro's been around for so long that they waited for the new set to come out to ban it. And then they're going to do the same thing when the next set comes out. They're going to wait until 7 days after the next set to ban Omnath. And then they're going to wait 7 days until after that set to ban whatever else is coming out down the pike. I mean, that's not the way to run a candy shop, in my opinion.
It's how Yu-Gi-Oh! Has ran their candy shop for many years. Ninja Chico 42, as mentioned there, like, that's a real thing that they do. Like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes even further. Yu-Gi-Oh! Does weird stuff like they take like one away. What if you could only play 3 Uro? What about you can play 2 Uro? Only 1 Uro, right? Like, or whatever. So, like, they do all sorts of weird manipulation to make sure that their stuff doesn't necessarily tank immediately, but they're okay banning it later once, like, they've gotten their sales and they're happy with it and whatever. So, that's pretty close to sort of, imagine you were like talking to a consultant, right? Because there's definitely sort of 2 halves of the Wizards pie. Like, even just think about this, like, how many people from Wizards who work at Wizards that I can know of, that I could name off the top of my head, considering I've literally met, talked, been in the building, like maybe 20, maybe a dozen to 20 if I'm thinking really hard, and a lot of those people aren't even there anymore. Right. Like, this is a company with hundreds of people, and part of the thing that they do at Wizards is they say there's a part of Wizards that knows the game, plays the game, loves the game, would jump on the train tracks for Magic the Gathering. And there's the other half who do not play at all, are not invested in this emotional way that say, that they just look at the brass tacks, the operations part of it, the financial part of it. And that's where that sort of break happens of like, well, we're just making a product that's going to sell a thing and go. And from there you say, well, if this is what other games do, if this is the status, this is sort of the expectation that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is given, if we do it, maybe it'll work. And again, sales of Magic are crushing it. Like, exactly. Pushing the pedal down has not necessarily broken the sales. Like,
for as much as we say that turning the knob is going to break something eventually.
Well, I think that Magic has done, or Wizards or Hasbro. We talked about this on a previous show. I think they've done a really good job at insulating themselves or making it that much more difficult to really break away from it. Because I can't remember the last time I purchased a booster pack, but I still buy singles, and that requires a store to either open boxes to get the singles, which they have to buy, or they have to buy them from people. And, or you can say that you're not going to go to in-person events anymore, but, you're probably still putting money into Arena, you're probably still putting money into Magic Online. And so, it's very, the phrase of, vote with your wallet or whatever doesn't really apply, because it's so hard to, you really have to just go cold turkey. And that's something a lot of us just aren't willing to do. And that's okay. I don't think I could do it either. And so, in any normal circumstances, you would just be able to stop or to not do whatever. But if you want to have anything to do with Magic, you're going to have to put money somewhere. And so, you can say that you're never going to play Standard. You can say that you're never going to do whatever, but somehow they're still going to get your money out of you. And then they're not really learning that lesson because the bottom line is not being affected. Right. It's really tricky.
Well, I also appreciate, them saying, well, like, we're going after new players. We want to make sure we target new players, because kind of once they got you on the hook, Magic's a lifestyle brand, essentially, as they call it, and you can kind of twist it around to however you want it to be.
Right, and they've made no secret of the fact that they really want that new blood. We were even seeing that going back to when we had when we had live tournaments where, you could say that, like, the GP, the main event attendance was down, but they'll tell you that, side events were huge, that people were drafting, people were playing Commander. And so, it wasn't about the enfranchised players anymore. They constantly want new eyes. And so if they have to go to other IPs to get that, they're very willing to do that.
I mean, from that standpoint, the Walking Dead thing makes a lot more sense, too.
Sure. And, there was something about Uro that was written here by Brad Nelson where he was talking like, standard sucks and the players aren't to blame for why it sucks. And he kind of goes on to like too many decks build themselves from energy to adventures. You can kind of clearly see like, hey, you should put Lucky Clover and the Edge, the Innkeeper or whatever in the same deck.
Edge Wall Innkeeper, yeah.
Yeah. Mana as a resource is being tampered with at an alarming rate where we're able to essentially get mana doublers, quote unquote, pretty easily. And the premium cards are flipping ridiculous, which is these cards are over the top great. Like Teferi, Time Raveler, This Who Shakes the World, Fires of Invention. Fires of Invention was supposed to be legal right now. Like alongside Once Upon a Time.
Alongside
and
Uro.
Lotus Cobra and Omnath. And I mean, like, for real, what were we supposed to be living in? And Companion, where you got your 8th card for free. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
It's a little crazy because, obviously there's the wonderful scapegoat of like, look, y'all are playing LUN online. It's your events. Y'all are just grinding it out too fast. And like, we have heard that for a decade plus easy of just like, the Star City Games events, they ran through, the metagame too fast and they showed what was the best too fast. And it's like, well, at the same time, even if we had shown too quickly, there were still, 4 or 5 plus archetypes in every top 8. These formats were not ruined with 70+% of the field playing the same thing. Whereas today it's like, well, here's the obvious best thing amongst all these great things, and that's just kind of how we play Magic.
I think there's 128 slots of a card available in a top 32. How many Omnaths are we going to see? I think someone said an over-under on 112 and a half. Which is like a ridiculous number for a 4-color card.
Oh,
because
it's
a free Siege Rhino, and it's a Siege Rhino every turn you play lands.
Goodness gracious. Well, how about we think we've burned enough oil on those two topics at this point. Do you want to talk a little bit here about the Judge Academy's response to COVID-19? Even though I said the bad word, like, look, we've come to the point where this is our reality.
No word, Evan.
Said the no-nos
Unbelievable.
In front of God and everybody.
Yep.
Tell you what, they're like waiving renewal fees for 2021. If you're a judge, obviously check out judgeacademy.com. They're essentially trying to make up for what the hell is happening. There's just no paper events to be judged right now. So things like online judge conferences are certainly a way to get people still invested.
Yep. Good to see leadership somewhere. And good to see a community coming together. The judges have always been a very nice, very friendly, welcoming community. And this post from Nicolette Aprez was a nice little wake-up call to be like, the world is still going on. We may still have Magic judges when everyone comes back together to play Magic again.
Yeah, it's important to keep some of that stuff together. Aaron, you want to tell us a little bit about what Cardhoarder's been doing?
Yeah, so Cardhoarder, full disclosure, they sponsor us, but we rode with them before they did. So we use their services, we enjoy their services, and they happen to sponsor us. So they posted a tweet the other day saying that there was an announcement involving their loan program. They are lowering the subscription rate for everyone from 3% of your loan value per week to 2.5% per week automatically. That's nearly 17% savings moving forward for everyone. Your next invoice will automatically reflect this change starting tomorrow. So, if you are looking to get into Magic Online, if you don't have a card collection, Cardhoarder has a great loan program. They're also working with TOs online to offer like weekend deals. I know Nerd Rage Gaming in Illinois has been having these qualifiers where if you don't have an account, you can pay like $10, get an account, the God account for the weekend, and get every card you want, be able to play legacy events. And so definitely check out Cardhoarder, check out Nerd Rage Games. They're one of the TOs that has really been trying to keep bringing people events while everything's going on and doing a good job of it by the looks of it. They have a modern qualifier on Saturday, which I'm thinking about playing in, but I'm not sure.
Very nice, very nice. Other good things we have to talk about. Arena has a new Decklist Hub, official Decklist Hub. Magic.gg/decklists will get you some of the latest decklists on Magic Arena. But I would note, if you click on the topmost link, this is a traditional standard ranked deck list on September 28th. I actually tried to play one of these builds here, this being the second deck in the list, which looks like a super spicy adventure list. And then I looked at the lands after I kept getting completely destroyed in my mana base,
exactly.
and I went, wait a minute.
No, wait, I don't see that. I see an Enchantress deck.
Well,
no, that's the first deck.
Yeah, that was the first deck.
deck.
Second deck has...
The second deck was the Clothis Goddess.
Okay, let's go back to this first deck, because I would play this.
No, the first deck looks super dope, and I have played it, and it is great. And Calyx Destiny's Hand is so much better than people give it credit for. It's amazing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, isn't it great? Like, it has pacifism and everything, which is really sweet. So go get your deck lists now officially from Wizards. I like it. It's great.
Oh my god!
I've played a bunch of deck lists from the website already, and they're super duper fun. Let me tell you.
This stupid Adventures deck mana base makes me upset.
I mean, if Adventures has got you down, play some Drannith Magistrate.
The Adventures don't have me down.
I'm just saying.
That the mana base has one non-basic land.
Yeah, the mana base is just
and it has 20 lands.
Look. If you scroll down, there's a green-red, sort of like a green-red boom. It's just like giant, stupid monsters.
Sure.
And I have a 73% win rate so far with that deck in best of one. Haven't had an absolute blast. There's that card in it, the 5 mana guy. Let me find him here. The Quartz Wood Crasher.
Yeah.
That card is a beat. Did you know that Jim Razor has trample?
I did.
Yes, it does. Jim Razor into that guy get a free 4/4 is a real thing I did earlier today, and it was amazing.
Nothing rustles Evan Irwin's Jimmy's quite like a 5-drop that does nothing the turn that it comes into play.
Except when it does, because Jim
Except
Razor
for if you already
trample.
have a 4/4 in
Yeah,
play.
except if you are and they're not doing nothing and they ain't got no blockers, because who's blocking? That's the problem. All right. Goodness. Listen. Quickly, in Desperate Ravings, speaking of list or listen, at parts it just feels like there's this weird way that Wizards just completely destroys people trying to sell their products. So they've got this thing called the list, right? They've got these 300 cards or whatever that are exactly like their original printings, except the mana symbol, the little Planeswalker symbol.
So weird.
Except when they're not, because they have decided to change the very old school white mana symbol to an all new white mana symbol. So now we got to go find scans of that and figure out what those cards look like.
What in the world?
When you're a retailer trying to sell these cards and they just got these little weird, strange, idiosyncratic changes, you're just like, come on.
Look at you using big words.
I know, right? The big Scrabble words.
You're idiosyncratic. Yeah. Imagine being the person who works at any company and is like, I've got to scan this slightly different symboled Pegasus Stampede. And then you look at the scanner and you look at this Pegasus Stampede and you're just like, what am I doing? Why did I have to do this?
Because originally it was Scryfall was adding the mana, the little Planeswalker symbols to the original cards, so you could at least essentially have mock-ups that were should be essentially what they're going to be printing, and then they're printing something differently. So yeah, that just makes you want to go hurt something because you're freaking out by how difficult it is. So yeah. Wizards makes weird stuff. They make weird ways to make cards, and then people who sell them hate it. Let's see here. This is fun and interesting, and hey, kind of sort of ties into the thing that we yammered on about for a while.
So there was a discussion that took place late last week that was started by Kristen Emily on Twitter, who's a prominent voice in the Commander community. Kristen had come across a video that had the title of something like "Unplayable Cards in Commander," and this prompted a discussion from people that was like, why is this a thing? Like, Commander is supposed to be the format where like you can do anything you want to, and so why are we using words like this? Like, why are we using words like unplayable? Why are we telling people, that the cards they love, that their pet cards are not good enough? And it's one thing to have a discussion with people about, it's one thing about educating about, whether a card is bad or, not as efficient or things like that. But, to completely rule out like, swaths of cards really rubbed people the wrong way. And so, nobody really disagreed with this, but there was just a lot of reaffirming that happened over the last weekend that Commander is the format for you. Like, you do not have to have anything optimized if you don't want to. If you want to play a card and the only reason you need to play it is you like it, that is good enough. And, just reminding people what Commander should be about, as opposed to, some of these people that are like, your card sucks. Well, let it suck then. I love it. Like,
suck on, whatever.
Yeah. And you mentioned kind of like the silver thing. You mentioned earlier that, Wizards might be afraid to make silver bordered cards because people will shame them. That's Commander. Commander is not about that. Like, normally, I've been to 2 Command Fests, 4 if you count the online ones. And you can say, like, hey, I've got a proxy, I've got a silver bordered. And I can honestly say I've never encountered anybody that was like, we're not doing it.
Yeah, you gotta go.
Bring it on. It's
I understand
fine.
that someone can have that sort of fear and anxiety, but that doesn't mean everyone fears or has that fear or anxiety.
I think if anything, if there was a format that would allow that sort of thing, it would be Commander. Like, bring your silvered cards. It's fine.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I personally loved it when the Commander people in charge, the powers that be, the tribunal, were like, hey, silver bordered cards are going to be legal for a month. And I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard of in my life. I'm so happy that they did that. And I kind of want them to do that like every year as like a 2-week holiday celebration, because that doesn't, again, it's whatever you want. Commander doesn't have a legality when it's just at your kitchen table. It's what you and your friends want to play with.
Yeah,
right.
So do what you want and have fun. I love that. I think that's just such a good attitude to have.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and for me, the card that always stuck out in my mind was Stormherd. This is a 10 mana spell from Guild Pact.
Yeah,
it's a white sorcery that makes X/1/1 white Pegasus, where X is your life total. This was like, it wasn't just unplayable jank; like, it was just complete garbage. Everyone hated this card. It was, you couldn't even give them away at one point, and then later, slowly but surely, it started to actually gain some amount of value. And people were like, "With this card's terrible." It's like, no, you're just not playing it in the format, which makes it fun. Exactly, and that's the Commander's whatever the hell kind of fun you want to make.
Exactly.
That's the whole time. Yeah. So go nuts and have fun, and that's the whole point.
Yeah. I mean, doubling season's also a poster child for that, right? Like, saw no play in standard, no play in modern, no play in extended, like $50. Yep. Because it's like one of the best things you could be doing in EDH.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, before, I guess, Karn the Great Creator, there was Mickle Saint Lattice, which was
that one too.
Nothing until it turned out to be something that you can take advantage of. But yeah, the idea that you're kind of sort of gatekeeping the most casual format in Magic. What are we doing?
That's what happens when you go corporate, man. That's what happens when EDH becomes Commander and Wizards of the Coast takes it over, and people are like, "Where's the ban list?"
I think that's also a symptom of what content is nowadays. Like, when you go to YouTube, it is randomly capitalized words. It is, you can't just say, like, 10 cards that you could perhaps play. No, it's going to be 10 cards that'll obliterate your opponent and draw. And, like, I think that's just how content is. You can't just you can't be in the middle about something. You either have to, really, really love it or really, really hate it. And sometimes that doesn't play well with a format like Commander, where everything's kind of okay. Very, very rarely is anything completely off the table. And so sometimes those things clash.
There was also there's some rumors essentially that Commander 2020, this is essentially the Ikoria Commander set that came out of the set of 5, is going to have issues with being reprinted rather. So if you wanted a set, they're around $150 or so right now for a set of 5. That probably is not going to last very long. Wizards already has supply problems with Zendikar Rising. Like, we got half of what we were promised. So it's like, that's a big deal. Plus Commander Legends right down the pike. So in the middle of that, are they going to, and Jumpstart, like, where the hell is Jumpstart, right? So, like, in the middle of all of that, they're going to go, wait, let's go print some more Commander decks. I don't think so. Instead, saying we're trying to get the current stuff out the way we wanted to get it out, and then maybe we'll do something later. But I thought that was really interesting in that, of all the Commander sets, the one that was released during the year where everything, stopped is probably a pretty good idea to pick one of those up. It wouldn't take long, essentially.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So here was a cool bit of splash damage. I got to see Brian Kibler had chatted about this a little bit, where there is going to be soundtrack by Twitch beta a rights-cleared music tool designed specifically for Twitch creators.
Nice.
Because as of right now, we cannot have music in the background. I can't play whatever track I like right now is to start the show, because that's going to cause a big problem.
Most streamers are walking on eggshells. There was a really big strike where like they were going through, you know, people's, and I mean, and to be fair, it's kind of always been like that. Like you always haven't been able to play whatever music you wanted to. They just never really took any action on that. Yeah, and a couple months ago, there was a really big there was a really big movement, and you know, a lot of videos were taken down. I think Gabby Spartz even was like, I took down all my clips or everything just because I didn't want him to catch me. And so you know, it scared a lot of people, you know, and rightfully so. And people have been left wondering, like, can I play anything? Like, it's really not clear. And you know, what we thought was royalty free may not be when it comes to Twitch. You have certain artists like the Midnight. If you're into like synthwave or anything, definitely check them out. They openly went on Twitter and they were like, stream us all you want, like, we don't care.
Please go.
And so it is really nice that Twitch appears to be kind of collating all of this, so that if you do want to play music, you don't have to go finding databases and Googling and scrounging things together. It sounds like they're gonna compile it for you.
Right.
Yeah, therefore, like, you know, around 5 years or so ago, you know, I was like, you know, maybe I should do the stream thing for a while, because at that point I'd left SCG, or rather they had fired me. And we'll talk about that one day. And yeah, I can say that. So anyway, so the idea, I actually went out and bought like a licensed sort of subscription service. It was like $10 or $15 a month, where they had like some cool electronic music that I got to use from their giant library, and they wouldn't strike me on YouTube for, you know, having those archives up. Now, the other half of that is that if I ever stopped paying them, then all of those videos would get demonetized immediately. So there was still problems with those services at the time. So for Twitch to kind of be the middle ground here, that would be really terrific, because that's the reason you can actually go back and watch a bunch of my old Magic Show work, because it has, like, you know, Guns N' Roses songs or something in it. Whatever I put in at the time.
Roses.
I put like Radiohead in there too, like not just everything, but you know, like a bunch of songs that I enjoyed at the time, because it was just the Wild West back in the, you know, aughts or whatever.
Were you playing the Wild West?
The Wild West. The Wiki. Okay. No.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone,
I don't know.
And everyone whose ears perked up when Evan started talking about SCG, we'll do it someday. Calm down.
It's cool.
The deadline has passed. We'll talk about it someday. We just gotta let it simmer.
It's gotta be organic. It's gotta.
Exactly. We need to have a really slow news week. Is what we need to have, and then it'll just be Q&A time.
All right, so let's go ahead and pick a winner here. Turn the corner to the finisher. Today is International Podcast Day, so to celebrate the best of Spotify, iTunes, Libsyn, Good Pods, Popcrave, MTG Podcast Network, and all the rest, what is your favorite podcast, Ruben?
Well, other than the In Contention podcast, the official podcast of the Star City Games Open Series in 2013, my favorite podcast is My Favorite Murder. It's hosted by two women who discuss their favorite murders from history. And my favorite murder from history is a toss-up between the H.H. Olms Murder Hotel and the time when Magic Cannon character Glenn Rhee had his head smashed in by Magic Cannon character Negan with his soon-to-be Magic Cannon equipment Lucille the baseball bat, which also means that baseball will soon be Magic Cannon. Interesting. I'm looking forward to that.
I have to interrupt you for a second. Did you see who just subbed?
No.
Put some
the Decklist
Hub. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I love it.
Put
Aaron?
some spec on that name. So other than the Deck Tease, the official Magic interview podcast of 2012, my favorite podcast is called The Read, which is a weekly pop culture podcast hosted by some fabulous New Yorkers where they spill tea on all the things I love. So I recommend them for your weekly dose of shade. But if that's not enough shade for you, just hang out here for a little while longer and wait for my co-host to open their damn mouths again. I'll get it for you.
Just a look on Aaron's face sometimes when we're talking. It's just like, it hurts.
Wow.
She's looking at us too loud.
Very loudly. Other than the Magic Show, the official podcast of the history of memes from 10 years ago, thank you so much, 99% Invisible is my favorite. It's a radio show style podcast on design and architecture, and it comes from a Buckminster Fuller quote, 99% of who you are is invisible and untouchable. And I personally love another quote from the American inventor and theorist that I think really summarizes my existence. I'm not a genius, I'm just a tremendous bundle of experience. Tremendous
bundle of experience, Evan Irwin.
There you go. We'll put that on a business card.
Yeah.
And that ends another live episode
That
of
could be
Magic
your
Mike's.
OnlyFans name, onlyfans.com/bundle of experience.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey, tremendous bundle. Thank you very much.
Right.
That's right. And that ends on live episode of Magic Mike's. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things magic. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time on The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah. Move here to our final slide. I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, Cardhoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Camel and Ruben Bressler. You guys for watching or listening. I hope you support us at Patreon.com/MagicMikes. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe, do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, Twitch.tv at Magic Mikes, on Twitter at Magic Mikes Cast, our Magic Mikes subreddit, and like the Magic Mikes page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at MagicMikesPodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at MagicMikesPodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes or Spotify, or just join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mikes. Good night, everybody.